What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back. In today's video we are checking out the differences between Samsung's latest mid-range device, the Samsung Galaxy A54, and of course Samsung's flagship for this year, the Samsung Galaxy S23. Well, first of all, the S23 is almost double the price of the A54, so is it worth spending the extra money to get the S23 over the A54? Well, we are definitely gonna find out in today's video. Alright, so first things first, let's start by checking out what comes in the box with each device. Well, pretty small boxes for both devices, and inside the boxes you aren't gonna find much. You're gonna find some startup guides and then you're gonna find the cable. A USB-C to a USB-C cable and again a USB-C to a USB-C cable. So you're not gonna find a charger with either device and you're gonna have to buy your own charger. Now, the A54 5G and the Samsung Galaxy S23, they both support 25 watt fast charging, if we can even call that fast charging. Now, with the Samsung Galaxy S23, we also get wireless charging, where with the A54 we don't get wireless charging, and the S23 also offers reverse wireless charging. So you could charge other devices from the back of the S23. Taking a quick look at both devices, well, if you have the same wallpaper on both devices, they do look pretty similar from the front here. Now, of course, you're probably gonna notice that the bezels around the screen on the Samsung Galaxy A54 are larger than the ones that we have on the Samsung Galaxy S23, but this is pretty normal. Now, the A54 is also a bit thicker and a bit heavier, and of course a bit larger because we do have a larger screen. So the A54 here weighs 202 grams, where the Samsung Galaxy S23 weighs 168 grams. So a notable difference for weight, I'm gonna say. The backs on both devices are also quite similar, so I kind of like the fact that Samsung is using the same design language for the more premium line and for the more affordable line, so for the A54 and of course the S23. Now, if we look at the frames here, there is a difference. So the frame on the Samsung Galaxy S23 is made out of metal, where the frame on the Samsung Galaxy A54 feels like it's actually made out of plastic. So yes, the S23 will feel more premium whenever you're holding it. Now at the top here you're gonna notice that on the A54 we have the SIM card slot. So with the A54 you can actually install an SD card and a SIM card. With the Samsung Galaxy S23 you cannot install an SD card. And I know that an SD card is a pretty important part for some of you. And moving to the bottom of both devices, they both have the holes for the second speaker, there's some holes for microphones, and even though they do have USB-C, both of them, the transfer speeds on the Samsung Galaxy S23 are much faster than the transfer speeds that you're gonna get from the Samsung Galaxy A54. So if you usually connect your phone to your computer to download files, videos, and so on, the S23 will be much faster for that, of course. And since we were talking about dual speakers earlier, so both devices have a speaker at the top and one at the bottom, let me show you a quick recording so you can hear how those speakers sound on both devices. Moving on to the screens, well, here we have a few differences. First of all, with the Samsung Galaxy A54 we get a 6.4 inches screen, where on the S23 we get a 6.1 inches screen. Now, personally, I do prefer the size of the screen of the A54. I feel that's the perfect size. They both have a similar resolution and the refresh rate on both screens is 120 Hz. Now, the screen on the Samsung Galaxy S23 is covered by Gorilla Glass Victus, where the screen on the Samsung Galaxy A54, it's not. I'm not sure what kind of glass they're using because it's not even specified anywhere. Now, another difference, the brightness on the screen of the S23 is 1200 nits with a peak brightness of about 1750, where the brightness on the Samsung Galaxy A54 is about 1000 nits. I'm not sure what the peak brightness is, I wasn't able to find that anywhere. So yes, you can see the Samsung Galaxy S23 a bit better if you take the phones outside. However, I have to say that even the A54 compared to last year's A53, it's quite visible in direct sunlight. So it is a decent screen on this mid-range device. Both devices also support the always-on display feature, as you can see here, so you can have the screens on at all time, basically. And they both have fingerprint scanners. Now, of course, the fingerprint scanner on the Samsung Galaxy S23 is much faster than the one that we have on the Samsung Galaxy A54. So let me do that again. So I would say about twice faster on the S23. As for cameras, and we're starting with a selfie camera, so on the Samsung Galaxy A54 we have a 32 megapixel front-facing camera, or on the Samsung Galaxy S23 we have a 12 megapixel front-facing camera. These are some pictures that I took earlier today, just so you get an idea how the selfies would look from the A54 and of course the selfies from the Samsung Galaxy S23 would look like. As for the rear cameras, well, the camera systems on their backs are fairly different, even though they do look similar on the back of the phones here. So the main camera on the A54 is a 50 megapixel sensor. We have a 50 megapixel sensor on the S23 as well. They both have ultra-wide cameras, but then the A54 gets a macro camera. This is a 5 megapixel macro camera, where on the S23 we get a telephoto lens. So of course I do prefer a telephoto lens over a macro camera. Now with the A54 here, you can also record videos in 4K at 30 frames per second. Of course with the S23 you can record even 8K at 30 frames per second videos. These are some pictures, some example pictures that I took earlier today. I'm actually working on doing a full camera comparison between these two devices, but just so you have an idea how those pictures look basically. So if you're recording in 4K at 30 frames per second with the Samsung Galaxy A54, unfortunately, there is no video stabilization. The main camera does have optical image stabilization, but no electronic video stabilization for 4K at 30 frames per second recordings, which is a bit of a shame. So of course, the S23 will get better cameras, but I will have that camera comparison ready in a day or two. With the A54 we also get a bigger battery. So inside the A54 we have a 5000 mAh battery, where inside the Samsung Galaxy S23 we have a 3900 mAh battery. If you use a 25 watt fast charger, you're going to be able to charge the Samsung Galaxy A54 in about an hour and a half, where the Samsung Galaxy S23 will be able to charge in about an hour and 10 minutes, somewhere around there. Now, the battery life, of course, will be better on the Samsung Galaxy A54, so you should be able to get somewhere around 8 hours of screen on time, where the Samsung Galaxy S23 gets about 6 to 7 hours of screen on time, depending how you use it, of course. Now, performance-wise, this is where you're gonna find the biggest difference between the A54 and, of course, the Samsung Galaxy S23. So the A54, it's using the Exynos 1380 chipset, where the Samsung Galaxy S23, it's using the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. If we open the AnTuTu benchmark on both devices, you can see how big the difference for that AnTuTu benchmark score is. So more than double on the Samsung Galaxy S23. Both devices have the same 8 gigs of RAM. Now for the storage test, so the internal storage test, let me just open that. So both devices have 256 gigs of internal storage. And once again, you can see the massive difference that we have for the reading and writing speeds on the internal storage on the Samsung Galaxy S23. So yes, for performance, there is a massive difference in between these two devices. So yeah, if performance is the most important thing for you in a smartphone, if you do play a lot of games, of course you're gonna prefer the S23 over the A54. Now, if you're just writing text messages, if you're just on social media, you may not necessarily actually notice that big of a difference between the two. But when you're doing more intensive tasks, that's when, of course, the Samsung Galaxy S23 will be much better than the A54. However, the A54 does get a really nice screen. decent enough cameras, I'm gonna say, even though I'm not a fan that the 4K at 30 frames per second recordings don't have electronic video stabilization. That's definitely something Samsung did on purpose. So if you're not that much into gaming, of course you're gonna love the A54 because it's still a pretty fast device. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching and I'll see you guys in the next one.